The Mask of Masculinity, how men can embrace themselves and be vulnerable in business and investing. That's today's episode. Let's dive in. Hey everyone, I'm Clayton Morris, the host of the Investing in Real Estate podcast. Super excited today to have a good friend, an old friend, on the show to talk about the vulnerability that so many men are afraid to face. And I hear it when I talk to investors for the very first time on the phone. I hear it when I hear from men who say, you know what, I'm traveling 2 hours to and from work in order to try to provide for my family. And they get vulnerable. They're willing to dig down. But there's something about men. We have to put on this facade. We end up being a little fake about it. My guest today is the great Lewis Howes. He's got a brand new book out called The Mask of Masculinity. It's available now for pre-order on Amazon. You want to go and check it out immediately. If you don't know Lewis, I don't know if you've been living under a rock. He's the New York Times bestselling author of the hit book, The School of Greatness. He's a lifestyle entrepreneur, high-performance business coach, and a keynote speaker. And of course, he hosts the fabulous podcast, The School of Greatness. Congrats on the new book, my friend. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother. And I love that we're talking about this with investing, because we were talking just before we came on that men in general seem to have this ego and facade about knowing where to invest their money and how to do it, or they act like they don't need support or need help from other people. You're mentioning how one of the top doctors in the country or something that you had lunch with the other day doesn't even know where to put his money and how to protect himself, but he's one of the most brilliant doctors, right? Not saying he's wrong or bad or anything like that, but sometimes we as men think we've already got it all figured out, or we don't need to reach out and ask for support or ask for help from people that may know more than us, because we feel like we might be stupid or not enough or whatever it may be. So our egos get in the way of us actually making more money. We want to make more money and we want to be protected and be financially free, but then our egos get in the way because we are unwilling to ask for advice from people that may be able to support us.
Right.
And that's why I love that you do your show, because you're constantly a resource for people where they can tap in and learn how to do more of this. But that's the thing, for years, I didn't know what I was doing in money, and I still feel like I don't know. Even though I'm constantly reaching out, I'll have conversations with you and ask you about different stuff in real estate. I'll talk to my other friends who are trading stocks. I talk to my other friends who are deep in cryptocurrencies, and I'm just like trying to learn it all.
Right.
I try to be like somewhat dangerous by understanding the basics at least. And I think if we're not at least understanding the basics about all these ways to earn, save, invest, store, all these things, money, then we're going to be missing out and losing money.
It is amazing. And I've been so blessed to be able to watch your career grow. And it is always, when I watch you, it is with such a humble way that you approach it, right? With the launch of, of course, your podcast, enormously successful, but the launch of the book, The School of Greatness, the book. And then, of course, President Obama in the White House naming you as one of the top entrepreneurs in the country under 30 years old. You get to go to the White House, and I watched that whole journey. I watched it on your Instagram feed, being at the White House. It's easy to get a big head about stuff, right? I mean, I worked in television. Yes. People would say, "Oh, you're on TV. You're on #1 morning show in the country," and and it's easy for us to tie our identities to that stuff. How have you been able to manage this in the past few years as you've exploded?
I think what I realized is that people don't want to be around people who have a big ego and act like they're all that. And at the end of the day, when I do have a big ego, because sometimes it comes back up, when I do feel like, oh, I'm the hot stuff, I'm constantly reminded that living that way doesn't make me feel good. It doesn't make me, and I lose friends when I am that way. People don't want to be around me if I'm acting like I've got it all figured out. So I surround myself with people from the Midwest who constantly remind me on my team, that give me feedback. I'm constantly a demand for feedback. And if I'm focused on giving, then I feel like I'm always going to be okay. It's when I stop focusing on giving and helping others, or being in service through my mission, my work, whatever it may be, and I make it all about my needs, then it just doesn't feel good. I feel unfulfilled. And I think growth and contribution are the two things that really help us feel fulfillment and joy inside. When we're learning, that's why people should listen to your podcast every week, because you're going to learn, you're going to feel like you're improving your life. And when you're giving back, whether it be knowledge, information, time, joy, just giving a smile to someone is contribution. And I try to focus on those things every single day: growth, contribution, and obviously gratitude.
I love that about being. I just had this conversation this morning with a close entrepreneurial friend of mine, and saying, asking ourselves the why question. What are we doing? Because getting down to the essence of it, it's not just about real estate. It's not, four walls and a roof. They're all the same to me.
Right.
But it's about helping people, whether it's, achieving financial freedom. Can I be in service to those individuals? And you can never go wrong in your life by being in service to others. We talk a lot here on the show about that, being a hoarder mentality, or thinking from a place of lack, that I'm not worthy of abundance. I'm not, money doesn't grow on trees. So therefore, when money comes to me, I need to hold on to it like a hoarder and never give and never be of service to other people. You came from nothing. I mean, you were sleeping on a friend's couch, right? Your sister's couch.
Sister's couch for a year and a half. Yeah.
After a pro athlete, career-ending injury, you're like, what am I doing with my life now? You come into money, obviously you're very successful now. How do you still square that, right?
At first I was so fixated on making as much money as I could, because I didn't have any in my bank account, that the money I did bring in, I was terrified to spend it. So I still lived like, I got an apartment. It was $495 a month. It was the cheapest apartment I could find in Columbus, Ohio. And I bought like a futon couch. I was pretty much like a college bachelor, like living a few years after that, and didn't want to spend it, didn't want to invest it. I just saved it all and had it in the bank, and was just kind of terrified. And then I started to realize, okay, I've got money here. I'm going to be able to last for the next year and a half, 2 years, 3 years with this money, how I'm living my life. So let me start learning how to invest it, because I was ignorant. And I really felt like I was just doing this for myself. I was living in scarcity, hoarding the money, and it just didn't feel good. And so I started to look into, like, what can I give back to in an organization or charities or whatever. I just started researching, how could I give back in some way to make an impact? Because I felt like I wasn't doing enough to give back to the world and contribution. And so that's when I started giving back to charities and started really attaching myself to some specific charities. And it's like the most incredible feeling to be able to have money to give and not feel like, oh, I'm just giving away money and it's not going to come back, because it always comes back when I have that mindset of abundance.
Yeah.
So it's powerful. I've got, 7 figures invested in multiple. I probably am not doing it the right way, because I've invested in literally every different thing that, like, every wealth manager has told me to do. I'm like, tested it.
Right.
I've tested it. I've got money in real estate, like holdings. I haven't bought a place yet. I'm still trying to buy a place with you, but I'm like, haven't pulled the trigger yet. But I gave money to Grant Cardone to put into like his fund. And I was like, all right, let me just test it through this way. That way I don't have to have any property and have to worry about and like the stress of it. Because I still haven't been able to overcome that yet. And I've got money like in investments and 401ks and the defined benefit plan and like a cryptocurrency. I've tried like everything. And I'm like, it's probably not the best strategy. I've got like tons of money and whole life insurance, like every different angle that I can defer my taxes to and allow my taxes to grow tax deferred. I've got it there to the max. And people are like, you've done too much, essentially, because you don't have any kids, you don't have this, you don't need all this stuff right now. But my father, who was a life insurance salesman for 32 years, always told me, he said, every client I have says they wish they would have invested more when they were younger. Whether it was in life insurance or whatever the thing is, they wish they would have invested more when they were younger.
Yeah.
Because they start investing when they're 40, 45, and they're like, oh man, I see the benefits of this now. And so anyone who's on here, start investing, whether it's through real estate right now or whatever channel it is, just start investing in something that is going to give you that financial freedom in the future. And I have my stuff on auto payments. I don't know if you teach people this for real estate, if there's a way they can auto put away like $1,000 a month to save to be able to buy one of your homes in the next year or 2 years, like do that. Because when I don't see it, I don't have to write the check every month. It just automatically comes out of my account, and I know I'm saving money and investing. So
what we teach people to do, specifically with the passive income that they get from their tenants, if they've got 2 properties or 3 properties, is just take that cash from the tenants as if you don't even own it. You don't even see it. Put that into accounts so that you can then buy your 3rd or 4th property. So that cash flow that's coming in, especially we talk about the 3 stages of real estate investing: buy, own, and cash flow. When you're young, you're in the buy phase. You want to build $1 million, $2 million worth of net assets, and focus on the cash flow a few years from now, and let that sort of grow that way. But that's a smart strategy.
Wow.
Yeah. I remember the David Bach book, The Automatic Millionaire. I read it many years ago when I lived in Dayton, Ohio, and I was deep in debt, and I was like, okay, I need to get out of debt. I need to figure this out. And his whole plan about just, putting things on autopilot, making accounts that are saving you money, and you're not having to do it, because we rely on us, you know how we are, and we've got so much going on in our lives. You're going to rely on me to send $1,000 a month?
No way. It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
No, but you've got your hands in some great stuff. I want to dive deep now into this book, because the reason I wanted to have you on for this show, I look at our download numbers. I look at the men who listen to this show, and women can take a lot away from this show. And I want to think that we're alienating you in any way, but there's a lot of men that listen to this show, and there's a lot of men who will, when we get on the phone with them, have that sort of chest out, I know what I'm doing kind of thing.
Yes.
Unwilling to be vulnerable, unwilling to admit, hey, I don't know it all. And look, I'm right here on the show saying I'm investing in real estate. I don't know it all. I learn from masters who own thousands of properties, and so we all learn. We're all learning until the day we die. Men have a difficult time with being vulnerable. They have a difficult time with getting down to that emotion. What made you want to write this book, just at a high level, The Mask of Masculinity? Why did you want to write this book?
I wanted to write this for myself because I realized that I needed to hold myself accountable. For my entire life, I felt like I was always a good guy. I was always joyful, loving, giving, passionate, excited, driven. I felt like I was a good guy. But I always seemed to suffer inside, like this weight of the world or weight of whatever, resentment, anger, frustration, these triggers always weighed me down. And whenever certain things would happen in my life, whether it be in an intimate relationship, family, friends, business partners, when someone triggered me the wrong way, I didn't know how to respond from a place of grace, excuse me, and in a place of peacefulness. It was like I was automatically triggered to react from a place of fear, anger, frustration, resentment, defensiveness. And when I would respond, or I'd say react in that negative way, it would consume my life. It would make me feeling like really upset for hours, sometimes days, about one moment or situation. A great example is like when someone cuts you off and you're driving. It's like you get upset at that person, you scream at them, you yell at them, you swear, and then your heart gets tighter, your chest gets tense, and it takes you away from your family, being peaceful in that moment. It takes you away from your vision if you're looking to go to a business meeting or whatever it may be. It takes you away from living the life you want to live. And my whole life, I've been on autopilot in the sense of reacting in a negative way in those moments, as opposed to responding from a place of compassion, love, understanding, or just realizing that my vision is more important than my triggers. And so I wanted to write this book because there's a lot of angry, hurt, resentful, frustrated men that don't know how to express themselves from that place of their vision. And, I've been so conditioned to react. And I think a lot of men that I grew up with are conditioned to react as opposed to respond from a place of, I've got this all under control. The true alpha man to me is not the one who puffs up their chest and like screams and like says like, I'm the biggest, baddest person here, whether through my physicality, my intellect, my wit, whatever it may be. It's the man who can go into a chaotic setting or just a stressful setting and say, I've got this, and kind of gracefully move his hands through and like diffuse and disarm the situation and come to a win-win scenario for the situation. Not the one that says, I need to fight, I need to rage, I need to come back, I need to win, I need to be right, you need to lose and be wrong. And that's what I've learned about myself for my whole life. I needed to win at everything, and I needed to be right. And if I didn't win and I was wrong, then I wasn't good. I wasn't a worthy man, and I wasn't accepted in society. And it was like an attack against my identity if I was wrong or if I lost. And I realized it drove me to achieve incredible results, as an athlete in business. I got the girls, whatever it is, I got the things that I thought I wanted, but it was always unfulfilled and empty inside. And I didn't know why until I started down this process.
Right. Because then you're going to continue, right? You think, oh, well, it'll be the next thing, right? I'll buy the car.
Exactly.
I'll get the
I need
bigger
something
house.
big. Exactly. And I was just going after that. I would achieve these things that I wanted to achieve my whole life. And then 10 minutes afterwards, I was like, why am I still upset? Why am I like not fulfilled? Why am I unhappy? Why am I like the meanest person right now when I just achieved what I wanted? And I was like, well, I just got to go bigger, I guess. Maybe I'm not good enough yet. I got to keep going bigger. And then I keep going bigger, and I'm like, why am I still? And it wasn't until when I hit 30, I was in a really toxic relationship. I got in a couple of bad actual like physical fights on the basketball court, and just everything wasn't working inside. On the outside, stuff was working. On the inside, I didn't want to do anything. I was miserable. And that's when I said, okay, it's time to like figure out why I've been this way, what's in the way for me. Why am I constantly angry and reactive when these things happen to me? Because I felt like I was a happy, loving guy most of the time. But it's like my mind was consumed by these moments, and I couldn't let them go. I wasn't able to forgive things from the past, and I was always holding on to things. And just like, man, this doesn't help me in any area of my life. In terms of investing, it doesn't help me in terms of my relationships, in terms of my health. Like everything was affected because I was wearing these masks. And so that's when I started to dive in.
Yeah, I mean, when we talk to investors that think that having 10 properties is going to change their life, it'll help, right? It'll help with passive income, but if you don't change those fundamental things inside of you, I once heard something in a book that I was reading the book was called Awareness by Anthony DeMello, and he writes. The three most difficult things for a human being are not physical feats or intellectual achievements. They are first, returning love for hate. Number two, including the excluded. Like the person who's on the basketball court who can't play and maybe just sitting on the sidelines, bringing that person into the game and helping that person. And third, admitting that you are wrong.
Wow.
He says it's not physical feats or intellectual achievements. It's those three things. And that's why I love what you're writing about here, because this answers that question. People are looking for all these external things, intellectual stimulus, more money, but you got to fix those things. The being cut off in traffic and just saying, wow, that person must be having a bad day. Why is it ruining my day?
Exactly. Yeah. And we feel like sometimes it's an attack on us when someone like cuts us off, or they tweet us in a negative way or leave us a negative review, whatever. Sometimes we take it as like they're attacking our identity. They're attacking like our manhood or who we are as a person, whether if you're, it doesn't matter, man, woman, or just human being. We feel attacked, and that's our mask that's being attacked. That's the false sense of identity that's being attacked. And when we can remove that and we can say, you know what, I don't need to fixate on that part of myself that I'm wearing. This is who I am, and this is how I'm going to respond. It's very challenging to get off autopilot, just like we talked about how hard it is to, for you to write a check every single month and get out your checkbook and send it to a savings account or investing account or whatever it may be. It's very challenging to do that when life happens. But when you're automatically taking it out of your accounts and you set yourself up to win, then the money at the end of the year, you've got so much stashed away. That's why in the mornings for myself, I will give myself 15 minutes to meditate, breathe, and do other things like set my clear intention for how I want to respond when things are going to happen every single day. So when someone's late to a meeting, or someone cuts me off, or whatever it may be, or someone attacks me or leaves me a negative comment, I imagine all those things happening. And I say to myself, how am I going to respond if this happens or if this happens? Now, I don't want to attract that and just like say it's all going to happen every day, but I allow myself to go through the scenario. Okay, if I get cut off today, or if I feel like this today, or if I feel like someone's attacking me, how do I want to respond? And I try to prepare myself for that because it's going to happen, whether it's that day or next month, something is going to happen where you feel an attack or defensive or triggered. And that really gets me clear. And that automatically doing that every single day in the morning sets me up to win. And then at night, I give myself a score. What are the things that I could have done better on a scale of 1 to 10? Did I react and text that guy for an hour like I actually did, a week ago? I did this with someone who I felt attacked by and was coming at me, and I kept responding to him, and I was just like, why am I doing this?
Right.
Why am I still in this trap? Like, this doesn't support me.
I love that. People say to me, why don't you hang out in internet forums? It's like, you know what? Because I'd rather be in service of other people. If I'm in there defending someone with, millions of viewers on Fox and Friends, I get nasty emails from people. You're an idiot. You can respond. I used to do that years ago. I used to spend 2 hours writing a negative email back to this person, defending myself. And there was 2 hours of my life wasted. Gone. For what? For my ego?
Yeah. To prove him right or whatever, or prove him wrong. Yeah. Yeah, so
you deal with these walls that you talk about in the book, in this idea that there are walls that men have. I mean, these walls that are sort of set up, and this is it's a great way for men to interact with women, so women can understand some of these walls. Maybe they're all artificial, right?
Yes,
they're all artificial, and it reminds me of one of my favorite REM songs. Sorry, a little sidetrack. Called "World Leader Pretend." It was off of the Green album from the '80s, and I love this song because Michael Stipe talks about these walls that we build. They're artificial, and we have the power just to tear them down. We make these fake walls in our minds all of the time. Talk about some of these walls that we can break through as men.
Yeah, it's all to protect ourselves. We're literally trying to build a wall, I guess, for America, which is to protect ourselves from people coming in and, killing us, raping us, whatever it is that we think that's happening. And it's all based on our fears. So we build walls based on our fears, our insecurities, our vulnerabilities, as opposed to revealing who we are and having those conversations. And again, usually it stems from something that happened to us or happened to us multiple times growing up where we said, okay, I'm sick and tired of being bullied or being picked on or this happening or people making fun of me or not being accepted. So I'm going to build a wall to protect myself, or I'm going to put on a mask to fit in with those people. For me, I put on a mask for years that would fit in with the kids that made fun of me. And I wanted their acceptance. So I became something they wanted me to become, but it wasn't actually who I was. And I fit in, I was in the group, but I always felt like I wasn't authentically myself. And I felt resentful, I felt frustrated. I was just like, and I didn't feel like I could ever be myself because they wouldn't accept me for who I was, because they wanted me to be something else. So
wow,
it's challenging to, especially when we're kids or something and our moms say, go to school with an open heart, son, and be loving and be kind to other kids. And then you go to school and you have an open heart, and maybe there's a couple kids picking on some other kid, and you're like, hey, don't do that. Like, it's not nice to do that. And then they take you and slam you in the locker.
Right.
You're like, well, maybe it's not good to have an open heart and be nice, because look at what happens.
Right.
So I need to protect myself. I need to get stronger. I need to get tougher. I can't show my emotions because they're going to make fun of me. And I just want to be accepted and fit in as a kid. So a lot of these things happen and develop when we're younger, and then we're on autopilot in the wrong way when we grow up.
Oh, I love it. You got to check out the book. It's called The Mask of Masculinity: How Men Can Embrace Vulnerability, Create Strong Relationships, and Live Their Fullest Lives. It's available now. Go to Amazon. And if you haven't already picked up his first book, The School of Greatness, you got to go pick that one up as well. What is next for you, my friend?
What is next is always what is now.
I love
that. Because this is, I'm always dreaming, and I have projects happening in the future, which the next book that I'm already writing, I think you'll actually fall in love with, because it's all about making money. But now is the most important thing, because with everything that's happened just this year alone. I didn't know that the racial marches were going to happen in Charlottesville
Right.
this
This
year.
book is so incredibly timely with everyone.
It's
I mean,
crazy.
it's what consumes our dinner table discussions, my wife and I, and all of the horrible things that have been unfolding with Harvey Weinstein.
Everything.
It's
Yeah,
horrible.
the sexual abuse and harassment, molestation in Hollywood executives, the racial marches that are happening, the Vegas shootings,
Right.
just the Vegas killings, the domestic violence in professional sports that comes out every year, pretty much every season. There's some football player that comes out with some scandal. The political disconnection that we're facing and reactiveness that's happening, the environmental disconnection and pain that we're facing, all these things this year that keep coming up in the media, besides the natural disasters of hurricanes and fires, is stemming from this toxic masculinity. It's all stemming from men, is what we're hearing about, who are afraid, angry, trying to protect themselves, and feel fear about something in their life. And then they're marching, they're killing, they're beating, they're doing things because they don't want to express themselves or respond from a place of love, like the guy talked about in the Aware book. And that's why, for me, now is so important, because this conversation needs to happen.
So much of this pain that we're experiencing right now comes from this place of insecurity. That's why when I saw that you had written this book, I said, wow, boy, are you tapped in right now to the zeitgeist and a powerful. This is what we needed. It really is the elixir right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate, but it's fortunate that I can have this conversation, and unfortunate that this is so much happening right now at the same time.
Well, I would hope all of our listeners go out there and support Lewis. A great person, great human being, and spreading love and kindness. This is exactly what we want to spread here on this show, and I know that our audience will deeply enjoy this book and find it deeply moving as well. Lewis, my friend, great to see you. I've had the pleasure of talking to Lewis Howes. Go out and pick up The Mask of Masculinity. Thanks so much, Lewis. Great to see you, my friend.
Appreciate it.
And thanks to all of you for downloading and subscribing to the show. We publish this show multiple times a week. We want you to go out there. We want you to overcome your fears, get vulnerable. Look at yourself in the mirror. Do you scratch yourself? Do you cut yourself when you're shaving? Are you being fake about who you really are? Pick up Lewis's book, and I think you can get a lot of clarity on your life. We'll see you back here next time, everyone. Much love to you all. Much love to Lewis and our audience. And we'll see you back here next time, everyone. Take care.